Slasher films and the killers who make them what they are. Hello class, James Griffin here to tell you a little bit more about slasher films and the killers who make up these movies. A slasher film is a movie that usually includes a psychopathic serial killer who is hell-bent on stalking and killing as many victims as he possibly can in a graphic and violent manner. A serial killer in these movies usually is wielding a weapon such as a chainsaw, machete, scythe, or in Freddy Krueger's case, a pair of claws. In this speech, I will give you a little bit of information about who these killers are and what makes them who they are. First off, let me say that usually in these movies, they have multiple sequels and haven't been even remade. Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees is the killer of the well-acclaimed Friday the 13th series. He first appeared in the Friday the 13th Part 2 as the son of the cook turned murderer in 1980, and continued to kill and rack up deaths throughout Part 10 of the series. Jason was also casted in the critically acclaimed crossover film Freddy vs. Jason. Jason, at the age of 11 years old, supposedly drowned at Camp Crystal Lake. He then, at an undisclosed age in the film, witnessed his mother having her head chopped off by one of the camp counselors. Afterwards, he became one of the film's genre's best and biggest serial killers. After Part 3, he was officially killed and then became what was referred to as a supernatural serial killer zombie that the horror film watchers, as myself, know and love. Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger is a nightmare terrorizing serial killer of a Nightmare on Elm Street series. Freddy Krueger is played by the well-known actor Robert Englund. Freddy first appeared in Wes Craven's A New Nightmare as a glove with razor wielding disfigured dreamstalker, hell-bent on stalking the souls of teenagers he kills in their nightmares. Freddy Krueger was a child murderer that was burned to death by the parents of Springwood, soon after being released on a technicality. Freddy was eventually killed off in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Freddy Krueger has also had a spin-off show on television. Freddy has also made a guest appearance on the end of Friday the 13th Part 9, where he takes Jason Voorhees' mask to hell. Freddy also has made and appeared in the movie Freddy vs. Jason. Michael Myers. Michael Myers is the soulless serial killer of the Halloween films. He first appeared in John Carpenter's Halloween in 1978 as a young boy who murders his sister and then returns 15 years later in search of his younger sister, Laurie Strode, aka Angel Myers, after escaping from a mental hospital. He then starts to kill the teenagers of Haddonfield. He is pursued by his arch nemesis throughout the whole entire movie, Dr. Loomis. Dr. Loomis was his doctor at the mental hospital. In the films, Michael Myers seems to be unkillable and very brutal. He is even more brutal in the remakes by Rob Zombie. There are a total of 11 films, 2 of which are directed by Rob Zombie himself and are basically remakes of the original in a way. However, Michael only appeared in 10 of these movies due to Part 2 of Halloween was based on a completely different script. In slasher films, there are certain list of rules that separate these films from any other type of horror films. Rule number 1, the killer. Every slasher film has a killer. The killer is usually a non-speaking mute, minus Freddy Krueger. The killer is always seemingly unstoppable and supernaturally powerful. Usually the director feeds in a childhood backstory of the killer to make his or her life and killings more relatable to the audience. Rule number 2, the heroine. The heroine in these films is usually a female and almost always virtuous. She usually passes up drinking, drugs, or sex. The heroine is usually known as the final girl because at the end of the movie, she is usually the last one left. She then has to deal with the serial killer, and after defeating him or her, she is always haunted by it. Well-respected horror heroines include Jamie Lee Curtis as Laura Strode in Halloween, Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson in A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Adrena King as Alice Hardy in Friday the 13th. Rule number 3, the victim. The blood and gore in these films are always higher than most of other films in the horror genre. In slasher movies, the victim tends to be a young and attractive and sometimes always in the middle of sexual activities or nude. These adolescent teenagers are always participating in sex, drugs, alcohol, or all three. There is an unwritten moral code in these films that these type of behaviors must be punished. However, sometimes the killer will kill an innocent, which makes, for the public, more horrific to watch. Well-known horror victims include Sarah Michelle Gellar, Kevin Bacon, and P.J. Soles. Rule number 4, the violence. One thing that separates slasher films from other films is the violence level. The violence is usually higher, and the killer does not let the victims off that easily. They chase them for about 15 minutes and still kill them, torture them, or just kill them with nasty, horrible weapons or nasty, horrible ways. Storylines are basically constructed around giving the killer a reason and or opportunity to murder as many victims as he can. The deaths are violent and always graphic, and the more originality shown in the methods and tools used, the better the film is, victim-wise. Why people love these types of films. People love to watch slasher films for multiple reasons. We as the public love adrenaline and to be scared. We thrive off the thrills and chills of these films. We love to see the villains of these films and to watch the heroines of these films to overcome them. Even in the earliest history that we know of, there has always been stories of evil beings and people who were defeated by heroes or heroines. There's something to this cautionary tales when we watch some of these scary movies. They depict themes of how innocent prevails over evil. It is these ideas that make us love slasher films in general, and to also love the killers themselves. In closing, slasher films are films that focus on a homicidal serial killer and the heroines who defeat them. Whatever the reason we love them and the rules that these films follow, there will always be slasher films and we will always watch them. I hope that I have shined a little light on these topics and that you have learned a little more about them. And if you are not a fan of slasher films, I hope that maybe you understand why we, the lovers of these films, watch them. Have a good day.